Welcome back. Not less than 7,000 civilians have died from over 800 terrorist attacks in Burkina Faso and Mali. This is according to the Economic Community of West African States Early Warning and Response Network report. Responding to the alarming figures, Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, Yusuf Tuga, and ECOWAS head of council is now calling for an urgent need to safeguard the security of residents of the region. Rice correspondent Punari Benjamin reports.
This is the 52nd Mediation and Security Council meeting of ECOWAS ministers in Nigeria's capital, Abuja. Top on the agenda is the issue of insecurity in the ECOWAS region and the Sahel. At the event, Nigeria's Minister of Foreign Affairs, who is also the chairman of council, emphasizes the urgent need for stronger action against the region's rising instability. Tuga believes that ECOWAS has to redouble its efforts and stand united against the forces of terror and despair.
And as we join forces to find common solutions to the continuing challenge of violent extremism and foreign interference, we should also remain mindful of the broader challenge of cooperation to help tackle the underlying causes of instability in our region: climate change, migration, organized criminal activity, global terms of trade, and access to financing. Our task today is to consider how best to meet the immediate symptoms of the condition we face, and also how to establish firmer foundations to reduce inequality and poverty and strengthen democracy.
ECOWAS President Aliou Touré says that the ongoing lack of communication between Sahelian nations and ECOWAS is troubling and weakening the regional integration agenda's unity of purpose.
Governance deficits and marginalization have strained social contracts, engendering bitter rivalries, unhealthy competition, organized crime, and violence. To complicate the situation, our region has also become the arena of geostrategic and geopolitical rivalries, and the explosion of misinformation and disinformation that engenders mistrust among and within communities and undermine social cohesion. As if that is not enough, our region is faced with disintegration.
However, the UN has continued to pledge its support. Its representative is promising to work closely with the organization to maintain peace, security, and development in West Africa.
I stress the need for them to contribute to the socio-economic development of partner countries in the region. I also highlighted the importance of supporting and building on efforts of ECOWAS. Meanwhile, UNOWAS and a delegation of sub-regional directors of UN agencies, funds, and programs in West Africa recently carried out missions to Burkina Faso, Mali, and Niger to assess how the United Nations can continue to better support the peoples of these countries.
This meeting is coming at a very crucial time where there are unresolved issues in the ECOWAS region. But whether this meeting will provide a lasting solution to these challenges is what everyone will be expecting to see. Punari Benjamin, Arise News.
Well, Arise News analyst Dayo Sobowale joins us now to discuss the need for ECOWAS member nations to take collective action in addressing the root cause of insecurity in the sub-region. Good afternoon, Mr. Sobowale. Thank you for being here.
It's a pleasure to be here, Sylvia.
Of course. Now, what would you like to see in terms of the balancing act when it comes to ECOWAS respecting national sovereignty of the member states, and also with this pressing need, when it comes to the pressing need for these collective security measures?
Yeah, the word collective is what I find questionable. You see, when we are talking of collective action, we are talking of unity of purpose. We are talking of people who are at peace with one another. But ECOWAS now is rent asunder with the three nations under military rule, having formed their own confederation. That's Mali, Niger, and Mali, Niger, which is the third one now. Mali, Burkina Faso.
Yes.
Right. So there's conflict on the ground. The Nigerian president, immediately assumed office as president when he was voted in, tried to intervene and put in some collective action. But that floundered, and the rest is history. Now we have a confederation involving Mali, Niger, and the third nation, and there's no unity in ECOWAS. But the alarm they are raising is about insecurity. And my brief here is the root cause of this security. You see, it's not far-fetched. Poverty, crass poverty is one. Climatology, the Sahel, people looking for food, the other. The third is jihadism, whether you like it or not. And then, of course, you see, we are all still thinking West Africa or the whole world is partitioned between the superpowers of the last World War. But that is changing. Even the Francophone states, they have rejected France, literally, from their territories. Of course, we are still allied to Britain, but we are independent. We've been independent since 1960, although I don't know where that has taken us. But you see, there are new players, there are new neighbors in the horizon. The Chinese are here, the Russians are here, whether you like it or not. In fact, when the J Army ordered the French and the Americans to leave, they have brought in the Russians. And then, of course, you know the Chinese. The Chinese are already in Nigeria, not politically as well, but economically. The Chinese have a global infrastructure plan, the Road Belt Initiative, get me? Which they use to, initially it was to build a train to Asia, from Asia to Europe. And they've been doing it. But here in Nigeria, they are helping us with rails. You see, to me, what is happening is a clash of civilization. That was said after 9/11, and people try to discard it, but it's still very much on the ground. It's a clash of ideas. Jihadism wants to spread Islam. And whether you like it or not, it's as if, you see, they're almost in the majority in the Sahel. They are victims of poverty. That is the poor, downtrodden people. But then, you have the warlords, you get me, who are using banditry and kidnapping, you get me, to fund ownership of territories, especially areas where government deficit is there, absent state, the state is absent. Yeah. A government is any government that can take control of the area, and they are doing that mostly across the whole of the north of West Africa. And then, say, that's domestic Sahelian, West African politics. The foreign intervention, like I said, is very important too, although it's subtle, but it will get up. It's going to be a cultural, religious war. See the American way of life, the European way of life, European values, gay rights, same-sex marriage, and all that. The Chinese oppose that. The Russians oppose that. And you see, they are all fighting for global control and cultural control, or cultural, they will say there's cultural cooperation. But the Chinese will not close their eyes and watch America introduce gay marriages all over the world. The Russians will not do the same either. But as of now, it's the West that has the power, that has the ascendancy. But it's a war of ideas. Let's leave it at that.
You've touched on quite a lot of things. I even want to ask questions on Mr. Sobowale. But if you remember, a few years ago, in northern Mali, it was virtually almost overrun by insurgency, Islamic insurgency, and we saw how France came in just at the nick of time to quell that threat at the country's sovereignty. Now, France came in. Now there's opposition to France in that region, and of course the same thing with U.S. in Niger. But my question is, fine, we're not saying they should put soldiers on ground, but in terms of logistics, in terms of armament and stuff like that, and of course intelligence, what's the way out for the sub-region to actually take advantage of this, of which they had been given before, but now they are discarded?
Let me think out that issue. See Mali that you mentioned.
Yeah.
Okay. The military overthrew the civilian regime because he said it was because of insecurity. It was not protecting people.
Yeah.
But another regime overthrew that one because he said it was running away from the jihadists. Get me? Until France came in, France helped them. But because of the animosity of colonialism, they said when the Russians just showed up their head around the corner, they brought in the Russians. So everybody now hates France. But you see, the irony of it is that the economy is tied to the front stream of France. French colonial policy, acculturation and assimilation, turned colonial citizens into black white men. You get me? They live together with them. You get me? As equal citizens. That is why when you are under colonial rule, you see, the colonists, they were going to parliament in France. You get me? You know, they still spend the French currency to tell you how they assimilated them thoroughly. But you see, it's like becoming an orphan overnight. Yeah. The jettison France, but the way they are used to the way of life of France. Get me? And you see, look at the situation in Niger, another situation, Niger and Benin Republic. The Chinese built pipeline to carry oil to the port, but because of this coup, Benin closed the border. Yeah. So, but now, luckily, they are negotiating. Maybe the solution is lost in plain sight to us. You remember the Bakassi issue we discussed the other time? Maybe it's our homegrown diplomacy. Yeah. Maybe that's what we'll resort to eventually. You get me? Because all the borders we have are artificial borders, created pencil and paper by the colonialists. So I think maybe we'll have to readdress, do some introspection, and reassess ourselves, and know we have real borders, and we don't have, and stop talking arrogantly about territorial integrity when they're artificial, and move closer to each other. Like that.
That's a very profound statement and a lot of facts there as well. We'd like to thank you for your time and analysis as always. Mr. Dayo Sobowale, a Rise News analyst, thank you for joining us.
It's a pleasure.